If you're tuning in, you're getting ready for part 2 of our conversation with Bill Gallagher, the host of the Scaling Up Business podcast, and also an incredibly experienced business coach. Part 2 will take us further into some of Bill's experiences and stories, just to help us understand what leaders, managers, supervisors need to do to stay out of the boss hole zone. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get back to Bill. The Boss Hole Chronicles are brought to you by Real Good Ventures, a talent optimization firm helping organizations diagnose their most critical people and execution issues with world-class analytics. Make sure to check out all the resources in the show notes and be sure to follow us and share your feedback. Enjoy today's episode. Before we hit record, we were talking about some various stories you have, and one Bill really just stood out for me. It's the CEO of the tech company that he had trouble firing a person that had, as you say, a great resume, but just didn't get it. And the reason that jumped out for me, if you don't mind sharing that, we talk about head, heart, and briefcase here at the Boss Hole Chronicles, or that's the work we do at Real Good Ventures. About the head is where the behavioral cognitive data live. That's what our analytics help us understand. Heart is all about core values and passion and your sort of cultural wiring. But the briefcase is the resume. And that just jumped out at me. So what's that story?
There's probably half a dozen similar stories like that. I think the one that we were talking about there, we had a fantastic resume and all the right skills, but a person whose value set, whose approach to culture, decision-making, all kinds of things was just off from the rest of the company. It was pretty apparent within a couple months of the person's hiring that they just weren't going to work out. And in private conversations, we were like, yeah, this is a bad fit. So I did, for the next 9 months, various things to try to help them go, you guys, let's break here. You guys go take a walk together and see if you can appreciate each other. I trained them in deeper listening skills from the work of Mark Goldstein and others to understand each other and where they're coming from and anyway, it didn't make any difference. The fundamentally different views on the direction of the company, the approach to business strategy, the way to operate things and make decisions, and no amount of really terrific blue chip resume was going to make a difference. And they struggled with it, and people struggle with it because they feel like, oh, it's being so hard and I'm not being accepting and nurturing and whatever. But there's a point where you're really clear. This person, or you should be clear if you are honest with yourself, this person is never going to win in this environment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or this job, whatever. It can't happen. I don't have the environment of the job for this person. And every minute after that decision that you don't proactively begin to separate them, you are damaging both them and the company. So if I hold you in a job that you can't ever win in, and I know it, maybe you can't see it yet, or can't face the reality of it, I'm wasting your life, right? Firing you will be probably traumatic. Many people don't have the means to successfully navigate that without financial hardship. They don't have sufficient savings. So there is a stress and strain when you let somebody go. But ultimately, you create an opportunity for them to find a place where they could actually win. And if you could let them go with dignity and respect, even if they stole from you, you could give someone human dignity and some respect and encourage them to do the work and find the next place and so on. Then they have a fighting chance to find a place where they could be an A. I kind of believe that everybody could be an A player somewhere.
I agree.
And if it's not 100%. With you, then they need to move on. But also your whole team is like, oh my God, we have to suffer that jerk every day. It's not that person fundamentally is a jerk. You couldn't cut them open and find jerk under the skin. They don't belong there. Their jerkiness is a function of their bad fit to the job and the company, right?
Exactly.
Amen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I just, as we say, nobody is born to be a boss hole. I don't think anybody seeks out to really be a horrible manager or supervisor. I think that's just either they like you said, they're in the wrong role. We took a great individual contributor, put him into a management role, shouldn't have done it. But I love your comment though about a blue chip resume. I remember having a conversation with a CEO, and he said, this person, it was the same scenario. We hired this person. Look where they went to school. Look where they worked. Top flight MBA, and put this person in a situation that they were not wired to deal with. And he said, but he's got an MBA. And I said, that's the briefcase. That tells you that this person has a wonderful set of credentials, but it doesn't say how he will perform or she will perform, whatever the case may be.
Or environment. It could be that they did that once and they can't do it again. They're in a different place in life, or who knows. Yeah.
Right. And so do them the courtcy of, let them go, let them be free. Oh my, go ahead.
Love on them and let them go. Give them some runway. Like you're genius to say that. I hope people are listening. It's not like, doesn't have to be some awful, and it always is. I've never heard of an organization that parted ways with somebody in a healthy, let's make this easier for you kind of way. I think that's powerful. And don't complain
I'm not even saying you necessarily have to do a whole lot for them.
Sure.
I had a woman who was stealing from our company some years ago, and I figured it out, and in a very elaborate scheme. And I called her in. As soon as I figured it out, I within the next hour, I called her in and I let her go. And I said, listen, I'm just heartbroken about all this, and I'm sorry I have to let you go. And I realize this is about to become disruptive in your life, and I am not going to pursue criminal charges against you, but I suggest that you do the work. And here's the thing: I don't think you're an evil person. Whatever you did here and why, I don't even need to know all of it, or why or any of it. I know there's a place for you in a better future, and I really wish you the best. It's just not here.
Yeah.
And it was like, but literally, I'm like, you effing this or that, you robbed me like thousands of dollars, but I also have this person, I don't know what led them astray. And to be honest, I don't want to get into the whole story of it. I just know that it's time to make a change, but I could be have regard for them as a human being.
Absolutely.
So it ends now, but I hope you find a better place.
And you wish her the best. Yeah.
In the cases where, it's not malfeasance and other horrible things, it's a goodness of fit issue, or the complexity of the job has now outweighed the person's capabilities. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. All of a sudden, people are bad characters, and we're making it about, they're lazy. I knew they weren't up for the challenge, and no, they're actually, they've been outmatched, and it's unfair and unkind not to address that. The other thing I was going to say is, don't then complain about lack of trust or lack of psychological safety if you're not addressing or confronting those issues where there's a disparity in performance, or one person on the leadership team is sucking all the air out of the room or making it difficult for everybody else. I mean, you don't get to bellyache about no trust and no collaboration if in fact there's no credibility in your addressing these things. You're not holding people responsible. I don't even like the word accountability. You're not holding people responsible for a standard of behavior. That's on you.
I think when you get to that place, if you could really get there in your bones, then firing people could be easier, right?
Yeah.
And it's a big challenge for people. They don't want to confront that. They don't want to be the bearer of bad news. They don't want you to hate them. They don't want to get in a fight. They like the whole world of that. Plus, underneath it all is confronting that we made a mistake in hiring you or having you around too long.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's all that going on. But I've gotten really good at it, and I have been good at because I'm like, wait a minute, I get that clarity, and then I need to confirm, do I have the facts? Is this accurate? I'm like, okay, and then is there anything foundation to lay in, defensively, are there things to lock in or calls to make or anything to make sure? Do I need to check with my labor lawyer? All the surrounding thing. But then the minute after that, I can call you in and say it's time to go. And I'm sorry to bear the bad news. This is about to be a difficult time. I hope that there could be a better future for you. And then I could go tell my team, I had to let somebody go today. I can't say a whole lot more about it, but it's going to be better for everyone. And it's really tough. I'm sorry to do it, but we can get through it together,
Love that.
Bill, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, though, with your experience, my guess, well, your philosophy is that when we reach that point, it should not come as a surprise. I think you're the kind of leader who clearly defines expectations. We're going to establish metrics. We're going to give you a runway to be successful here, and we're going to stay in communication about it. But by the time that event takes place, I can't believe that there isn't justification, if you will, or it comes as a total shock. Does that make sense?
I think that sounds better than I am. I think that
that's how I see
we
you, Bill. So.
Thank you. That we get busy. Right. And we get working on other things and other priorities, and then we neglect something over in some realm, and we don't necessarily give them timely feedback that things are going astray. So I think even if you're halfway decent, it can sometimes come as like, a wake up, right?
Yeah.
That things have gone off. Anytime if you build up if you build up a lot of stuff into quarterly reviews or annual reviews, it's really, people are like, how am I doing? Am I getting a raise? But if they don't already know, because you aren't doing regular feedback weekly, bi-weekly, then you're making a big mistake.
For sure.
If you don't know how your boss feels about you just because they smile, they could be busy with something else, right? You got to know where you stand. And if you are a boss, then you really want to let people know more proactively beyond like, hey, have a nice day. Like, listen, how are you doing with your job? Right. And like, let's talk about it for a minute, because I'm not sure, or I have some concerns. Let's work them out before they become a big problem.
Yep. Right. Well, and today's managers need to be so dialed in. And we've talked about reinventing the role of the manager for the last couple of years. The old command and control, not gonna, it just is not working anymore. We don't abandon it completely, but managers are the developers, the coaches, the builders of people. And if that's not who you are, maybe that's not the role for you. But Bill, let me ask you this. We're coming into, this is going to go out to the Boss Hole Transformation Nation in the fourth quarter of 2024. We're around the holidays. This is the time where people start to maybe slow down a little bit, but maybe start to think about the new year. So given all of your experience and what you are seeing right now in the marketplace, what is your advice for the CEOs, the business leaders, the managers out there? What do they need to be thinking about for 2025?
Well, I mean, I could compare like two kind of stories that set the foundation for it. Let me talk about the negative one first. So I had a CEO, and we're in the middle of a transaction. We're bringing in new investors and a new CEO, and we're doing a transition. And the person had been extremely hands-on, and their hands in everything. And then they brought in a new CEO who didn't have their history, but was even more hands-on and more micromanaging of stuff. But now we've got thousands of people in this company at this point. And the frustration in the private conversations that I had with the C team and the next level leaders was so palpable. Like, they all were like, oh my God, let me do my job. Be clear. Who is it? Get out of my world. Like, stop. And I could even see it as a coach being told how I'm going to run exercises, and, oh, this person or that person did it like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm not that person. I'm going to do it differently. Like getting in everybody's business all the time. And I'm like, wow, that they're really going to struggle with stuff as long as this keeps up. And they continued to struggle with sometimes. The change still went through, but the brakes on the company, it's taken years to start to settle out and to make that transition when it could have happened a lot faster. Contrast, I think, with like my own personal kind of experience. And that is that I was forced to make a change. So I had come in, I'd taken over as CEO of a company. I ran it. I built or updated the strategy, a new BHAG, and refreshed values and brand promises, all kinds of good things like that. We operated on plans. We had dashboards and scorecards. People had their metrics. We had a regular meeting cadence of well-run meetings, that kind of thing. And yet I still couldn't get away. Right. I still couldn't. I was still involved. I couldn't go away for a week to a trade show, convention, something like that, without being on the phone and email the whole week. Right.
Wow.
Back to. So, and that's very typical of North American business. That kind of like being deeply tied to everything until die or get fired or retire, right?
Right.
So anyway, that's how it was for me. And yet, though, we hit the point where we, looking at the year ahead and thinking about the year to come and how we were and the kids and all that, we realized, oh, wait a minute. This is that time when the kids are 10 to 13 where we said we were going to take serious time off. So we always said, like, before we had kids, when we first got married, 10 to 13 is like a magic age when you could travel, when they appreciate stuff. So we're going to take like year off, whole summers off, and in that time frame. And so now we were there and I couldn't get away.
Right.
And yet I had all those structures in place, right? So we're like, okay, we're going to go away next summer. We're going to be gone all summer with the kids. And the business was now in a period of rapid growth. So I started saying about 10 months out, listen, next summer I'm going to be gone. How are you going to deal with this problem, whatever they brought to me in the moment when I'm gone? Well, what will you do when I'm not here? And then I kept little sticky notes across the desk from where I sat, and I changed them up about every week. And I just kept saying, how are you going to deal with this when I'm not here? And what are you going to do when I can't solve this? And what do you think you should do? And tell me more about the problem. What ideas do you have? So I stopped answering and telling people what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the shift, the structures were there. There were clear accountability and scorecards, but I still had my hand. I hadn't passed the baton. It was as if I'm running a relay. I'd given them hold of the baton, but I was still running alongside them, right? Correcting their run for their lap, right?
Yep.
So that is the thing that we do again and again. Pass the baton and then see how this one goes. Give them a little coaching. I mean, you want to like still shout out to them or, do whatever. You want to stay connected. But I had to spend 10 months shifting my style of leadership and theirs to own the thing and to so I would say more than anything else, if you want a really big company that does big things in the world, you can't possibly have your hand in all of it. And to have maximum impact, to create a global kind of a movement, then you're going to really be hands off, leading leaders of leaders who lead leaders kind of thing, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
very distant. So you're contributing at best an idea, a set of values, a vibe. And to do that really well, you've got to empower people, and they've got to stumble a little bit and pick up their own baton. And, you have to have a little room for that.
Yeah. That sounds so familiar. Actually, when you said let go of the baton, Sarah, you and I probably thought about the same person to whom we would like to send this episode. Yep. But what I love about that, Bill, is in our world of behavioral wiring, there are people that are very comfortable delegating or giving away little things, tasks, but giving up actual control and authority is virtually impossible. And that's what you took 10 months to really relinquish that control. And that's not easy. That I would imagine you had some trepidation through that process.
Strategy. I had budget approval. There were some things that I still had some control over, and they sent me reports, and I could see they're doing a good job. They're getting it done. Right.
And you did go away. You did go away for the summer.
We ended up going away just for a month. Right. We spent a month in Italy, and I was not on the phone at all dealing with anything.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Do you know how many people are listening to this going, I would do anything to get 2 or 3 weeks completely away. A month is a retreat.
I went sailing. We went driving around. We had great dinners. There was a lot of wine and limoncello drunk. There was good living.
Did you get any Aperol spritzes when you were there?
I'm not a big Aperol spritz.
Oh, okay. Because that's all we saw when we were there.
To the point you made earlier, Bill, the way you move, so goes with it in your world. So, 100% responsibility means that if I want this to be different, I'm going to need to take some actions to make that different, which is exactly what you did. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Good advice.
So the first thing is take a look in the mirror. And then the next thing is start to pass the baton and deal with the person who doesn't pass the baton. Deal with that person, right? That's something about you in the mirror that's going on, right? So micromanaging, too hands-on, that whole world.
Yep.
Bill, what's up next for you? You're into so many cool things. What are we looking for on the horizon?
I fly to Utah this week. I think I'm in Arizona the next week. I've got 8 cities and 2 countries more to visit before the holidays hit. So
oh my gosh.
I'm like going a little too much this year, but I'm like working with cool teams in to the world. We're leading great workshops and helping people level up and stuff like that. So, our show continues to grow, the workshops grow, our private clients grow.
Yeah.
Those are the biggest things. I also started a little thing new that I can, it's just, it seems so simple. It's almost like a non-event, but I noticed that all these people have all these kinds of like offers and programs and things like we have programs and offers and stuff too. But I'm like, it just all feels like a giant manipulation. So I just started doing this thing and we're going to see how it goes. I'll run it for the rest of the year. First call free. So the coaching experience doesn't start with a strategy session where we assess no, I just start in coaching and let's see if I can produce any value for you or if whatever it is. And if that's all there is forever, fine. And if you want to do more, you can ask me about it. But I am through doing all the sort of gimmicky, manipulative kinds of things. And I'm just going to give as much free coaching time as I can between now and the end of the year. And my assistant will just keep booking it up. And then we'll see like if we keep that up going. But like no sell, no nothing. We'll just see what it is. You could ask for more if you want it. But like, first one's awesome. Free. I'm your neighborhood drug dealer.
Well, I want to remind all of our listeners, go into the show notes, and I will have all of Bill's information, the Scaling Up Business podcast, his website, his offerings. So I think you probably know by now, if you want to get on his schedule, you better act soon.
If you want your first hit, you better get on there.
Yeah, there's always time. My assistant will fill me up in all the suitable times. So there'll be something if you really want it. But
well, people should take advantage of that. But Bill, listen, first of all, thank you again for having us on your podcast. It has been a pleasure having you here. I just hope that we can continue to stay in touch and see the cool stuff that you're doing.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on our show. It's great to be on your show. I love sharing these stories. I love doing this work with people. It is truly gratifying to be able to do this kind of work, to have the impact on it. Because all the things that happen out in our clients' work, I feel like I did something about that, right? Like it's a multiplying, and I don't have to be there every day.
Absolutely.
So true. Keep up the great work, Bill. We'll see you next time on the Boss Hole Chronicles. Everybody stay well.
Thanks very much for checking out this episode of the Boss Hole Chronicles. It was so good to have you here. And if you have your own Boss Hole story that you want to share with the Boss Hole Transformation Nation, just reach out. You can email us at mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. Again, mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. We'll see you next time.